Hello and welcome back, folks. I've had these two watches for about 2 years now, the GBX-100 and the GBD-200. If you're undecided about which one to get, hopefully I can give you some information and some opinions that are not on the spec sheets that will help you to decide. Welcome to Wrist Action. I first bought the GBX-100 as I had already owned the GWX-5600C, which is one of my favourite G-Shocks. The GWX-5600C is aimed at surfers and the GBX-100 is the successor to this watch. Let's start off with its design. To make it suitable for surfing, the case is made of resin and it has a brushed steel bezel. The marketing material says that it's there to protect the watch against scratches from rocks, but I think that it helps the watch to stand out on the wrist. It also has large textured buttons on the side, making it easier to operate when wearing in the sea. Another change from usual G-Shocks is that the light illuminator button has been moved to the front of the watch. This, believe it or not, does take some getting used to, especially if you're used to it being on the top right hand button. On the back there is a steel backplate held down by 4 screws. This sits tight against the resin guard structure, giving the watch a decent 200 meters of water resistance. I then bought the GBD-200 not because I needed the features, which we'll go over later on, but simply because I like the look of the watch. In hand, the GBD-200 looks even better than it does in the pictures. This luminous version really pops on the wrist, and it's got some really nice design features like the exposed sandwich layer and the colour accents on the push buttons. The backlight button has also been moved to the front of the watch, and that is surrounded by a raised bevel, which again is a nice design touch. On the back, the steel backplate is held on by 4 screws, but the GBD-200 also features wrist guards to stop the watch from slipping during strenuous workout sessions. Like the GBX-100, the GBD-200 also has a water resistance rating of 200 meters. Here are the dimensions of both watches. They're both very similar in terms of size and weight. Having small wrists, I was initially worried that they would look too big, as is the tendency with G-Shock watches, but they do sit very comfortably when worn, as they don't sit too tall. If you're the owner of a G-Shock Square, the 5600 series, the size is very similar to that, so they should feel as comfortable if you're used to wearing a G-Shock Square. Let's take a look at the straps now. The GBX-100 features a double pin on the buckle. The strap itself features multiple large drainage holes around the top to let out trapped water, and it's made of urethane. Urethane, I believe, is a compound material which is a cross between plastic and rubber. In hand it feels closer to rubber and is quite soft and pliable, making it very comfortable on the wrist. The GBD-200 features one large pin on the buckle and also has a nice translucent coloured keeper. There is also a ventilation hole near the top to let out trapped moisture. The material itself is also urethane but feels less pliable than the GBX-100. It also features a ribbed texture on the outside, which is hard to pick up on camera. The inside is also ribbed and offers a good grip against the skin. In conclusion, the GBX-100 offers a more comfortable wearing experience, so let's check out some wrist shots on my 6.5 inch wrist. Now onto the display. If you're a fan of negative displays, or even if you're not because you find them hard to read, the new M.I.P or memory in pixel display will encourage you. It offers greater viewing angles even in poor light, and because it's made up of pixels, there is scope for showing more information on the screen. Both these watches use the same M.I.P display, yet in real life the GBD-200's display looks more impressive. This is because the display panel is pressed closer to the mineral glass crystal than the GBX-100, which leaves a small air gap between the crystal and the display. The result of having the display very close to the top of the watch gives it almost a hydro-modded appearance, and it makes the display even more clearer to see. Backlights now, and for these watches Casio have gone back to using LED, which they're now branding as Super Illuminator. They seem to have abandoned electroluminescent technology, which I was a big fan of, but the white LEDs used in these watches works quite well even though heat spots are visible. The light can be programmed to stay on for up to 3 seconds after the button is pressed. Finally, let's look at the features of these watches. We'll look at the GBD-200 first, as the GBX-100 has all the features of this watch plus some additional ones. They both have Bluetooth and connect to smartphones, but they are not smartwatches, and that's a good thing. You don't have to worry about charging them weekly, as the supplied CR232 battery lasts approximately 2 years before charging. That of course depends on how much you use their features, such as the backlight, but I've had these watches for about 2 years and they're still on their original battery. The watches even shuts down their display at night time if they're not being used to conserve power and to prevent screen burn-in. Connectivity to the phone is done by using the G-Shock Move app, and this enables you to configure every aspect of the watch, such as setting the alarm, the duration of the backlight, and even updating the watch's firmware. I'm using the Android version of the app and it seems to work quite well. The main selling point of the GBD-200 is that it's a sports watch, or a watch that can help you with your workout sessions. The built-in accelerometer can count the steps that you've taken and the distance that you've walked or ran. The workout timer can also be programmed for high-intensity workout sessions, alerting you between workout sets and rest periods. Also, the G-Shock Move app can be connected to Strava or Google Fit, so your workout data can be sent to those apps as well. The watch can also show read-only notifications from your phone. These can come from your email, SMS messages, phone calls, calendar events, or apps such as Spotify. This is because the watch can only show the first few lines of the notification, and you'll have to go back to your phone to interact with them anyway, so I prefer to have this feature turned off. Let's look at the features of the GBX-100 now. This watch has all the training and notification functions of the GBD-200, plus some additional ones useful to surfers. You do have to pay more for the GBX-100 however, but it only costs about $10 more to get these functions. What the watch shows is tidal data such as sea levels and the times of high and low tides in the area where you live. It also shows the sunrise and sunset times for the day plus the moon age, as the tide levels can be affected by the age of the moon. I'm not a surfer myself, but it is pretty cool having these features on the watch. Onto the disadvantages now. Both of these watches share the same downsides, which are not deal breakers, but I do want to draw your attention to them. The first is that the watches can be slow. Suppose that you accidentally press a button that enters you into a workout session. See how long it takes you to go back to the home screen. The second downside is to do with the M.I.P screen. Even though it's a really good display, it does consume more power. To lower power consumption, Casio have kept the stopwatch timer down to 1 second intervals. Now that I've said everything I wanted to say about these two watches, let's score them in 6 categories to see which one is the winner. The first category is looks and design. This is going to be subjective, and which one you like the look of the most is going to be down to personal preference. But for me, with its blocky design, exposed middle layer and textured strap, the point is going to go to the GBD-200. The next category is display. Both watches features the excellent M.I.P display, but it's implemented better in the GBD-200, and the screen appears as if it's right at the surface of the watch. This is why the GBD-200 wins in this category. The third category is features. Both watches share the same sports workout functionality and connectivity, but the GBX-200 also features nice tidal graphs, sun and moon information, and so it wins for these features. The fourth category is comfort. Although both watches are comfortable to wear all day, the GBD-200 has extra soft and pliable urethane straps and feel great when worn against the skin, and so the point goes to the GBD-200. The final category is the backlight. Both watches features the white LED super illuminator backlighting that's really bright in the dark, and so it's a draw in this category. The conclusion is that both of these watches are very evenly matched, and you can't go wrong with choosing either. But if you want to save yourself a few dollars and you don't need the tidal and lunar information, then go for the GBD-200. However, I quite like having these features, and you get them in the GBX-100 for only $10 more, and so for me the price difference is worth it. Thank you for watching folks, I hope that I've helped you out in some way, and see you next time.